T.A.G. Very nice, very evil.
That's T.A.G shit.
Free fall as I die through the kaleidoscope in my mind. No rope up to climb. Gotta remind myself that I'm fine. Mama, I don't really.
What up, T.A.G Nation? It's the commish, ScooterRay. It's NXT.A.G. Let's get into it. We got the NQCC, Miles Bourne, Tavion Heights, Charlie Dempsey. If I say Patrick Dempsey, Charlie Dempsey, and Ren Sinclair. They're coming to the ring, and this is mainly Miles' time to shine. Miles won the #1 contenders battle royal, and it's his time to shine. He let the people know that he has a disability, which causes hearing loss. It caused an impediment on his speech, but he was like, "Hey, don't judge the man by his disability. Judge the man by his ability." Bars. And he pretty much said he gonna make sure he gonna get some respect from Oba come Battleground when he has this match. And then of course, Mr. Rain on the parade, all ego Ethan Page shows up, and he was like, "Man, look here, it was a fluke. You won that battle royal. It was on some BS. You shouldn't have won. I should be the one going against Oba. They need some star power in that match," and pretty much united. So he was like, "How about this? We have basically they agreed to have a match. The winner will take on Oba at Battleground, but that'll be later on in the program." Since Charlie Dempsey was already in gear, Ava, when she came out and kind of made that match official between Paige and Bourne, she was like, "Well, Dempsey, since you already dressing in the ring, remember, you supposed to take on Big Oba, Big Femi, Mr. No bread, no water, just meat." Look here. Charlie Dempsey is a grown man. Oba is a grown man. Oba was tossing around that grown man like nothing. Like nothing. This was a glorified squash match. There was no, fanciness here. This was a glorified squash match. Oba gets the dub. Of course, he stares down Bourne, and he was like, "Hey, look, you just saw what I did to your boy. Just a preview of what I'm gonna do at Battleground." Then we had a segment where Carmen and Thea was back there talking. Carmen was basically thanking Thea for saving her from Jada, from suffering at other hypnotic. And then they walk into Tatum. She's smashing the dolls. She's smashing the dollhouse, because if you're keeping up with everything, everybody Tatum has is pretty much gone. Gigi is gone. Shotzi is pretty much, they're gonna let her contract ride out. So Tatum is to herself, and she starts snapping on Thea, saying Thea's the worst kind of friend, and that's gonna lead into a match a little bit later on. Paige and Saints kind of had a little segment where they was going back and forth, and Paige was like, "At some point, I'm circling back around. It's gonna be on my time, but I'm circling back around for that North American Championship." And Saints was like, "I bet." Next match, Tony D versus Wesley. Lazy bars, but bars. Of course, Lee is accompanied by Tyson DuPont and Tyreek Nwigwe. And I figured out that I don't know how long they've been using the name, but officially the trio of Wes, Tyson, and Tyreek is known as the High Rise. Yep, the High Rise. And it was somewhat back and forth. I hate that now, since they got Wesley as this character in this new version of him, he's not as dominant as he was back when he was North American champion. And that stint like that, especially, as tag champ when he was, MSK with Zachary Wentz, but at that time it was Nash Carter. But yeah, it was like, I get it, but pretty much Tony D was handling Wes until Stacks appeared on screen, and Stacks was like, Tony D, come on now, you ain't think I know where you had Rizzo stashed at? Like, excuse me. Like, he was like, hey, I've been with you for all this time. You ain't know I know where you had Rizzo stashed at. So he was kind of threatened to pay Rizzo a visit, which in return caused Wesley to hit the cardiac kick. 1, 2, 3. Tony D loses. And eventually Tony D kind of leaves the ring because he's like, oh no, I got to go check on Riz. More on that. Another OTM segment. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap up with that. They had another segment basically saying, hey, we coming. And when we come back, tag teams better watch out. Then that led to a segment later on in the show. Chase Hughes, Uriah, and Kale. They were like, hey, it's time for Chase Hughes to get back in there. It's time for us to do some things. We want a tag match. Ava was like, bet. And then Andre Chase walks up and he was like, so what's going on? And they was like, yeah, we getting a tag match next week. And they was like, okay, cool. But then they was like, well, hey, who's our opponents? And Abel was like, it's the return in OTM. And they was like, oh no. Yeah. OTM is about to stump a mud hole in these boys and walk it dry. Shout out to Stone Cold. We get Stephanie Vaquera coming to the ring. She's trying to, say her piece, and I can appreciate she's trying to work on getting her English down, but she had to eventually switch to Spanish, which, hey, kudos for trying to learn the American language, because it's more than just English. The American language evolves, so kudos for her for even trying to learn. But through all of that, it led to Fatal Influences, JC and Fallon to show up, and they're talking about how it was just a bunch of chatter. Like, JC and Fallon need to go ahead and just break on up and have them do their own thing, because they're doing so much infighting within themselves. But then it eventually led to Jordan Grace, and she kind of said the same thing. Was like, look, y'all can't even get out of each of y'all's way. And then, of course, it led to a little scuffle, of course. But then later on, there's going to be a tag match. Jordan and Stephanie versus Fatal Influence. But that's much later. We get another little tiny NQCC segment where pretty much Dempsey is just beat to shit. And they was like, hey, I don't think we can go out there. And they was like, stay with Dempsey, get him the medical. I'll handle Paige. Then we get an LFG segment where Tyra and Xena are having to determine who's going to be the women's winner. And they was with Bubba and Taker. And then Izzy, Nikita, Lash, and Lola, and the other women was in the back. Like, yeah, don't be thinking that, whoever wins, y'all gonna just stroll into NXT and just be, the big shit around here type of energy. And, it's gonna be a trial by fire situation. Whichever one of the two women wins LFG this coming Sunday. Tony D shows up to the house. Well, Tony D grabs a cameraman and somebody else. I couldn't see exactly. I don't think it was Luca, but somebody else. And he drives to the safe house. And to wrap that story up, he tries to go to the house. Stacks blindsides him, beats him up, and pretty much says at Battleground, not only am I challenging you, but I'm basically gonna take out the Don. It ain't gonna be no more Don. It's gonna be me, Stacks. I'm gonna take everything. It's gonna just be me. So yeah, we finally get that match between Miles Bourne, All Ego, Ethan Page to determine who will officially go against Oba at Battleground. Pretty decent match. I appreciate them doing this because they need to build up Miles. And even if we know Miles is not going to be a credible threat, or Miles is going to, we know Miles is not going to dethrone Oba, but just to make him look good, just to make him look, viable, I can appreciate that. And that's what they're doing. They're making him look like a viable fight for Oba. And ultimately, he does get the roll-up win on Ethan Page. But yeah, Miles is not bad in the ring either. So, I'm actually glad that they're kind of showcasing him in this light. So yeah. There was a segment of Sean Legacy pretty much saying, hey, I know I'm on Evolve, you're on NXT, how about we do this? How about Sean Legacy versus Javon Evans? And it was like a little video, and then Javon was watching it, and Ashanti the Adonis was behind Javon saying, hey, you've been in like main event matches and this and the other. Why are you entertaining old buddy? Like, you should be worrying about other things. And Javon and Ashante was kind of getting into it. Saints was in the background, and Saints was like, you know what? I kind of like this. So how about y'all two and pretty much Sean Legacy, y'all have a triple threat, and pretty much the winner will come see me after Battleground, pretty much. We get that match between Thea Hale and Tatum Paxley. Tatum is pretty much just disheveled. She's just angry, and it showed. It was more aggression to her attacks. It was more venom and malice, especially towards Thea, who she's like, she's the worst type of friend, and this, that, and the third. But ultimately, the match ended with Thea having her Kimura, and then Tatum slowly reaching up and was gouging at the eye of Thea. The ref called for the bell. She kept gouging at the eye. More refs had to show up and pull Tatum off. And yeah, Tatum is unhinged. She is an unhinged woman. So interesting to see where her storyline is going to go down. Now that she doesn't have the rest of the Misfits, it's interesting to see if they're going to pair her up with somebody else, or they're going to just leave her as like a solo act to just kind of, go wild on the other women, especially women who has friends. So it'll be interesting to see how they going to book Tatum going forward, especially since she lost Gigi, because they were a active tag team. So then we get a segment where Jada was kind of watching, and then Kalani walks up and starts. So Jada was watching the TV, basically talking about aha, Thea, that's what you get. Zarya and Soul were behind Jada. Kalani walks up, and Jada was like, okay, I don't want to hear all this bitching, so I'm leaving. And Kalani was like, well, what was that, Zarya? You speared me through the barricade? And she was like, what, you jealous because Soul caught me? And Soul was like, I didn't know it was going to happen like that. And then Zarya was like, man, squash all of that, I won. And Kalani was like, well, let's run it back then. And Soul agreed. So next week, we're going to get Kalani, Zarya again. And if Kalani wins, I think she gets the shot at Battleground, but she has to beat Zarya. So they're going to run it back next week. We get the contract signing between Joe Hendry and Trick Willie, because for the first time ever at Battleground, the TNA Championship will be defended on an NXT pay-per-view. And they was trading bars back and forth, but it was Joe Hendry that hit Trick with the ultimate, just like, ooh. He pretty much said, you know what, Trick? You don't have a path to the NXT championship. So if you don't beat me for this TNA championship, there'll never be another way to get a shot at this again. So with you not having a TNA championship, and especially, you not having a way to get back to the NXT championship, then what's left for you. And it left your boy, it left your boy Trick Willie just kind of pondering. Trick Willie was like, oh no, oh no. So yeah. Then we get a segment between Hank and Tank and Briggs. Briggs is like, I'm sad because I didn't mean to push Inamura away. I didn't mean to kind of make Inamura feel guilty and leave. And then Spears walks up there and was like, look, I'm just saying, you done did this with Brooks. You did it with Inamura. You know what I'm saying? It's like a pattern, my boy. It's like a pattern. And Briggs was like, Spears, I don't want to hear this bullshit right now. And Spears was like, all right, big dog. Main event match, Fatal Influence, Fallon and JC taking on Stephanie and Jordan. Solid back and forth, but come on now. Now, one of the things that's being interesting is Jordan is sort of trying to protect Stephanie, because Jordan says, she pretty much wants Stephanie at 100%. So Jordan is kind of protecting Stephanie in a sense, and it came to play when Fatal Influence was kind of going for a double team move, and Jordan pushed Stephanie out the way so she could take the hit. But eventually it led to the Beast Bomb. 1, 2, 3. Stephanie and Jordan gets the dub. Like, no need to spend no much more with that, because Stephanie and Jordan do have their match at Battleground. And they was having a stare down. They was chilling. It cut to a commotion in the back. All Ego just beat up Ricky Saints, and he was like, yeah, now it's time for me to circle back. So maybe at Battleground they may have their rematch. Then it goes back to Stephanie and Jordan. But yeah, we're on our route to Battleground. Battleground is next weekend. It's part of, Saturday being Saturday night's main event, and then Sunday being Battleground. And Battleground is shaping up to be a solid PLE. Oba versus Miles, Stephanie versus Jordan, Stacks versus Tony D, Trick versus Joe Hendry, potentially Saints and All Ego, maybe Kalani and Soul Ruka. I feel like there was something else. Yeah, I think those are the matches and potential matches that will be going down at Battleground. Bars. But yeah, solid episode of NXT. Once again, we're in story building mode. We're in story building mode to, whet the appetite for Battleground. We have one more show. We have the go home show next week, and then, like I said, Battleground next Sunday. Not this coming Sunday, but the following Sunday. And I'm excited. I can't wait. I know. NXT is going to be on the same night as AEW's Double or Nothing. But hey, choices will be made on my side. Just putting it out there. Y'all take that with it, what you will. But thank y'all for tuning in. Whether you loved it or hate it, don't forget to rate it thumbs up, thumbs down, like, share, comment, subscribe. After you subscribe, you got to tag that notification bell so you can be notified for more NXT.A.G, hot tags, tier lists, and whatever we get a chance to post on the channel. Shout outs to Lip Dizzle, Jaeger Bombastic, Juggernaut, and Kicking It with Leo. I am your technical predictions champ, ScooterRay. Thanking y'all for tuning in. Love one another. Take care of one another. Love yourself and take care of yourself. And until then, You beautiful, beautiful people. Do not forget to tag out. Too sweet. Peace.